Good morning. It's good to see you all. Julie Hoyle, who just shared those, Sean shared her 3 steps to finding your bliss. She writes a blog called Tiny Buddha. And the story that led to her sitting down and writing those, I won't tell you the whole story, but the short version is she's a freelance writer, and sort of means she doesn't get paid when she doesn't work. And she heard about this month-long Buddhist retreat in the Bahamas. And she really wanted to go. And her head was saying, you can't afford this. Not only can you not afford the airfare and the cost of staying at this retreat for a month, you can't afford to be out of circulation as a writer for a month. You need the income. And she decided not to listen to her head, but to listen to her heart and to go anyway. And the short version of the story is this: her next door neighbor was a casting director and said, you're in the Bahamas, we're shooting a movie in the Bahamas, we need you as an extra, it's only 2 days work, but while you're there, go early and do this thing. And then the weather turned bad in the Bahamas. How long does that happen? And she was on the clock for the movie, waiting to have 2 clear days they could shoot the scene that she was an extra in. And the short version is the filming of the movie was over the day before the retreat started, and when she got home, the check from the movie, because it had gone so long, covered her expenses for that month-long trip almost to the penny. And that was her realization. This was the universe saying, go do this thing you love. We got your back. Go do this thing you love. And she sat down and wrote those 3 simple steps to it was a silent retreat for a month, doing yoga for 3 times a day, not on my list of things I would forgo everything to go do, but bless Julie, that was hers. I think her advice sounds an awful lot like Joseph Campbell's advice on the same subject, which is on the other side of your bulletin if you turn it over and read it. Joseph says, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. And that sounds a lot like this experience that Julie had. And in fact, I've had that experience, my own version. When I was a teenager, there was an opportunity for me to go and spend the summer in Alaska, and I just did not see how that was going to happen. There were so many things in the way. But I wanted to go, and then like dominoes, these things just sort of fell into place. I'm still amazed. It turned out to be this really great trip that influenced my life in other ways. And that for me was the universe just opening up, just me doing what I wanted to do and having the universe follow behind me. I think Abraham Lincoln said, most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And that to me sounds not only a lot like Joseph Campbell and this following your bliss thing and just deciding you're going to be happy, but it sounds a little bit Buddhist. And for those of you who don't know, here's a very brief introduction to Buddhism. Gautama Siddhartha was a prince. His dad was a king in a little kingdom. His mom, before she died, was a queen in a little kingdom, a little prosperous kingdom in what is now part of India. And he just decided there had to be more than life than this, and he went off searching, and again, skipping to the good part. He was sitting under this tree when it just came to him, the answer to suffering, as he called it. And the answer was, life is impermanent. Everything changes, everything. The people we love, the things we love, the way we do things, the way we behave, the way we are able to do things in the world as we get older, all of it changes. All of it is designed to change. The universe itself is changing. And Buddha's revelation was, we are unhappy when we resist this, when we don't go with the flow, when we say, there's this great example. When you buy a new car, You love this car. Every time you get in, it has this new car smell. It's got GPS. You've never had that before. It's got satellite radio. You've never had that before. And you love this car. If you keep this car long enough, it is going to break down. And your GPS that tells you how to get from point A to point B is not going to be nearly as cool as your neighbor's GPS that says, "Those donuts you like are on sale 1 block to the north." And sooner or later, that car is going to cost you more to repair than it's worth. And when you resist that, I know from personal experience, you're going to be miserable. If you accept the fact that this is an old car that just doesn't work as much as it did anymore and pretty soon is going to be in the junk heap, if you accept that, okay. When you resist that, why doesn't it do those things anymore? Why is it breaking down all the time? Why do I have to go and get a new transmission? The car's not worth it. Anyway, you get the idea. Accepting change, accepting the way things are, Buddha said, is the path to bliss. And for me, there have been areas where this works. This accepting of the way things are works and brings me some kind of peace and brings me some kind of, shall we say, bliss. And I'll give you, in some sects of Buddhism, this is called the hook. We all get hooked. We all get angry. We all get frustrated. We all get jealous. We all get disappointed. We all get hooked by the things in our life because those things are going to be bumping along and changing and surprising us and doing the things that we didn't expect. And in Buddhism, there are 2 precepts. The first is be aware. You've been hooked. Be aware. And the second is let it go. Again, my personal example, my personal experience with this, I was having one of those days that we all have from time to time. Nothing was going right. I had this deadline that I regretted agreeing to, that I had to get back to the house and finish, but I had all these things that needed to be done. I needed to go out and run this series of what should have been simple errands, but it started with there not being gas in the car and me going to the gas station I always go to and it was closed and having to go to another one that was more expensive. Just one of those days we've all had when every single thing is harder than it needs to be. And by the time I got to the drugstore, which I do believe was the last stop, and parked the car, I slammed the door and I'm walking into this drugstore and if some CVS employee had walked up to me and said, "Can I help you?" I probably would have tried to melt her on the spot with my death ray eyes. I was just so angry. And out of nowhere, maybe from that universe that is always looking out for us and protecting us and surrounding us, this voice came to me and said, "Do you really want to be this angry right now?" And the answer was, "No, I don't." And it was like someone pulled a plug in my Achilles heel or something. I felt it drain away. And it didn't change anything. I still needed to finish the errands. I still needed to get back. But life went on, and I didn't need to be that angry. I was able to unhook myself and get detached. My problem with this Buddhist perspective of being unattached and therefore blissful is I don't want to be unattached from everything. I kind of like being involved in my life and plunging in, and probably I tend always in my life, some of you may know this about me, I tend always to bite off more than I can comfortably chew. I'm always behind. There's always too many things on my plate. There's always too many things. And a friend of mine turned around and said, "Well, you must like it that way. Because if you didn't like it that way, you would do something about it." And that just smacked me right between the eyes. How could that be true? but I think he's right. I think it is. I think I want to be plunged into my life. And for me, there's this dichotomy. Wait, time out. If I detach from everything, I'm blissful, but I know I'm happiest when I'm plunged into everything. How can these two things both be true? How, as I sometimes put it, I am not going to be happy if I'm that guy sitting on a mountaintop staring at my navel. That's not me. If that's what it means to be Buddhist, that's not me. I finally figured out that both can be true. There are things that I can and want to plunge into and be involved in, even if they frustrate me, even if they make me angry. Don't get me started on climate change. This is not anything I am going to say, well, I'll just detach from that and whatever will be, will be. Sorry, I just have to get on that soapbox for just a minute. There have been 5 mass extinctions in the history of this planet, and over the 4 billion years it's been around, 5 times we have nearly wiped out every single form of life on this earth. Every single one of them has been predicated by enormous climate change. And there has not been a climate change on the scope that is happening right now since the last mass extinction. Sorry, I'm not going to detach from that one. I am not going to bliss out staring at my navel and say, it's all good, it's all cool. So, what to do? In that dichotomy, in that way, where I find my bliss is plunging in, and the thing where I am angry when I don't need to be, where I am frustrated that I don't need to be, those are the places I want to detach from. I want to be involved in this world and detach the ones that slow me down, that mess me up, that make me perhaps not the nicest person if I'm trying to melt you with my death ray eyes. Okay. And all of this reminds me, and maybe reminds some of you too, of the serenity prayer. And I know you've all heard it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And what some of you may not know is that it was an American cleric, Reinhold Niebuhr, who wrote the Serenity Prayer. His original version is quite a bit longer, and I can see why the folks in AA, Mr. Wilson and company, I can see why they chose to shorten it. But his version is interesting. It's worth hearing, and if you haven't heard it, here it is. God, give me grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. Courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. I don't know what that universe that Julie Hoyle and Joseph Campbell were talking about, that force that is the universe. Maybe that is God. Maybe that's the collective consciousness. Maybe that's just the vibrations of the universe that we can tap into, the way it hums as it expands itself throughout forever. I have no idea. But whatever that is, I do believe that we can tap into that energy, that it can make a difference. Maybe it's all on the inside? I don't know. And quite honestly, if it works, I don't care. I want to be tapped into that. I want to find my bliss by listening to myself and listening to how I tune, how I vibrate in unison with the universe. As Joseph Campbell and Julie Hoyle both said, listen. Follow your heart. What does your heart want most? Listen to that. Find that. Follow that. And you will find your bliss. Amen.